Now, getting back to the Tory Lanez trial, I did some digging in the comments of both their pages. Now, it's pretty interesting what I found to really show you how social media really influenced people's perceptions and thoughts of this case. As a fellow native Houstonian and assault victim, I want to thank you for being so bold to advocate yourself and bring us on your journey, as so many women like myself didn't have the strength to advocate for ourselves. Whatever personal decisions you may or may not have made did not justify the violation that you endured, which led to this trial. Neither does it validate the public scrutiny and bullying. You will forever be in my thoughts and prayers. So this person is more so on Megan's side, understanding she was harmed physically and she needs to get her justice, and she feels like she identifies her. And I also talked about this with parasocial relationships on my other video, how we identify with people we look up to, like celebrities or athletes. And she's reaching out, and this is in her comments. So this is something else is different with the trial by media, because before, if you saw this on TV, you just watched it, went about your day. But now you can actually reach out to these people. And granted, Megan's probably not going to respond, but this got hundreds of replies and comments beneath it. So it shows that other people agree or disagree. But guess what? It can be talked about even more to spread the news, regardless of if it's true or not. His other comment says, I believe you. I'm so sorry you're going through this. This reminds me of the Shanquilla story in so many ways. Now, this is interesting because that Shanquilla story is a lady who was actually killed and vacationed in Mexico, and the prime suspects are her own friends. There is some similarities in regards to being with friends and the incident happening, but you see how this trial by media can skew things? That is a murder case. It's guaranteed that those people were involved, and there's evidence to support it. This is the biggest takeaway, I think, with these type of things is it's not that people have their thoughts or opinions, it's that what evidence supports it. If you say Shanquilla Robinson's friends were at fault, then it is evidence that we can say, yes, that's true. But with this case, we don't have enough information to really dictate that. And that's what the Sixth Amendment's all about, because we want to have impartial juries that can say, based off what we know, this is the information taken in. We cannot truly say that this person committed the crime that they're accused of. The whole point of that amendment is make sure if that person even is put on trial, that they can actually make a solid case. And right now, given the information that I know, the case does not look that solid to say that he inconclusively did this. Remember, beyond a reasonable doubt, there's a lot of doubt. So it's going to be hard for the jury to come up with a guilty verdict. And there's a lot at stake, talking about 20 years of prison. This one says, I love you as a Black woman. I just got through reading your blogs and it broke my heart to hear you say you wish you would rather be killed. I want you to know that we, the real people, support and love you. Don't let any negative commenters or haters in the industry steal your joy. You are successful, beautiful inside and out, loved and appreciated. Don't let the few loud voices speak for the many. So once again, she talks about the blog post. So you see this? The media is influencing. She read a blog to hear about this. Now, blogs aren't always the most reliable sources, but you can argue that because you listen to me on this YouTube channel. But you ought to look at where your sources are coming from. Are they reputable? What is their credibility? What is their background? Mine, I'm a psychology professional, college professor. I work with top corporations. So I do have credibility, but check that for yourselves. That's up to you. The point is she's getting this information from a secondary source. I also was a history teacher in the middle school and high schools. And you know, primary sources and secondary sources, these things matter because if you want to get your information, you got to know where it's coming from. A primary source is a record that comes directly from the person who experienced it or people that completely were verified to know that this happened, so we can tell this is sure. Now, a secondary source is maybe someone who's accounted it and telling their recollection, which is still favorable depending on where it's coming from, but you rather have it from the horse's mouth versus an external source. Now, this next one is not positive. It says, you must be related to Amber Heard. Y'all really out here lying to destroy another man's career. Your music is as bad as your lies. So like I said, I'm objective. I'm not saying who's right or wrong. That's why I'm reading good and bad comments from both. So this person is saying it's comparing to the Amber Heard trial. That was very popular in the media a few months ago. Very comparable. Two lovers having a lot of issues. One was a little more intense, obviously, with gun shooting. That's different. But the point is, they're comparing it to another trial that was big in the media, that was showcased every day for months. So you see how this really influences us? So we can say we're not drones of media. I'm part of it. You're a part of it. If you're watching me, you got to be somewhat part of it. There's nothing wrong with that, but don't let it dictate your actions. Now, let's look at Tory's comments. So this person said, why did you do that to Megan? I don't really have to go deep onto that. They're straight up saying, you're guilty. You see this? It's a guilty verdict by their opinion just off of what they think happened. Imagine being a 5'3" man and shooting a woman who's 6 inches taller than you. Once again, this person is distinctly saying you did it. That's a guilty verdict in their eyes. So you see how this is very troubling. This is all off of Instagram pages with they get millions of viewers every day. So a lot of people are seeing this. Now this person says you're innocent and you better sue the F out of her and everybody that costs you your reputation and all that money. So they make a good point. When you get dragged through the media as the bad guy, the villain, because let's be clear, while I'm not saying anyone's right or wrong, there is a villain and a good guy being portrayed in this whole situation. And regardless of who you think it tends to lean more on Tory. That's just being said. Obviously, they're both getting backlash. That is true. But the clear-cut heel of this whole altercation is Tory Lanez. This person said, imagine shooting a woman because you're jealous of her success. So once again, another person confirming that he did it. He's guilty. I don't hear nothing else because she has in her mind confirmation bias that nothing else can be changing her mind. Okay, this last one says, you need to sue her after this for defamation. People will still say you're guilty after you are proven not guilty. Perfect comment. So if you don't know what defamation is, this is basically when people say untrue things about you, lies basically. They can call libel or slander. Libel is written, slander is spoken. So you can see both of these are involved because if it is untrue, libel, there's blogs written, reports, interviews, and then there is slander because she did it herself. Megan did an interview with Gayle King about the situation. So it's spoken. So regardless how you spin it, written or spoken, there could be defamation. And defamation is bad because like they mentioned, he lost money, he lost opportunities, people, his image. That's the biggest thing. Money comes and goes, but your image, because after this, like this person said, they still will think badly of them. Even if the proof says he's not guilty, they will still pursue him because the first thing they heard was he shot Megan Thee Stallion. He's a bad guy. And given his past record, that's neither here nor there with this trial, but it goes back to the trial by media. It's brought up a lot. So his image has been shown in those lights. So they're going to bring it all together. And that's the sad thing about the human mind. We use a lot of past information to make judgment. That's just how we're wired. It's very hard to bring in that new information once someone's set in their ways. And with defamation, if he does get the not guilty verdict, that's going to be a whole new trial that now Megan's going to have to fight so she doesn't get faulted or sued to pay him back for damages because they could have a very strong case. I'm not a lawyer, so this is not legal advice, but for what I know from dealing with these situations as a consultant and an expert witness, she may have to face some repercussions for all of this if he's not guilty, because now he has to get back what he lost during this whole ordeal, regardless of what you emotionally feel about it. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from all of this is a lot of emotions get into the brain and the psychology of it all. When we think an emotional state, that's the amygdala, that's the fight or flight response center. That's where we instinctually act, because in fight or flight, the goal is to survive. Now, people talked about trauma, PTSD. This is real. So if she is traumatized, her survival mechanism is to act out of emotion. As humans, our survival mechanism is to act out of emotion. But the frontal lobe, the prefrontal cortex to be exact, this is where we got to rationalize, plan out things, make decisions, regulate those behaviors, and not be impulsive. But those two compete when you're in a fight or flight state, right? So a lot of people, when they're typing these comments, they're doing it out of pure emotion and not really rationalizing. So no one can really get a good point across. And it doesn't help anyone. It just skews everyone's perception.